Go. And welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Challenge podcast. We are your hosts. My name's Brett Parnell.
And I'm TT Fernandez.
And we're back here talking about the Challenge All-Stars 5. Our first episode talking about All-Stars 5. Sorry we missed last week. I had to go get an emergency cavity. But that is now done with, and we are back. Thank God.
Yeah, I also was super busy with school this week,
That's
or
okay.
last week, so it ended up not being that big of a deal that you were busy too.
Oh, perfect. All right. So getting into it, where should we start, TT? I guess we're right after the elimination from last week where Johnny and Beth go home.
Yeah, I think that's a great spot. We see that Adam and Steve came back from sorry. Somebody wanted to join in. Adam and Steve came back from their victory against Johnny and Beth. And then we see this was last week, but we had a pretty big Sylvia and Kellyanne argument.
Yeah, I like that we're getting in this season a couple minutes of whatever happens back after the elimination in the same episode.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Especially
lately it just seems to be pairs of rivals arguing with each other.
especially because on like we don't have the hour and a half episodes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it does get cut out, or like it kind of happened the last couple minutes of the episode. So it's kind of towards the end. You're not really much. They're displaying crap. So yeah, I also like that part of it.
So like you mentioned, Kellyanne and Sylvia seem to be having an argument again to start. They've, not surprising for a rival season that they're together. This pair has never really got along at all. And it seems like both ladies are just throwing random insults at each other about what's important to each cast member rather than trying to move their team forward.
Yeah, and I remember this from the last episode, but basically Sylvia said to Kellyanne something along the lines of, I have a family, you don't, you have dogs. And like I was really bothered by it, and I think a lot of people were, because
Yeah,
like
same as me.
I feel like pets are your family. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have human kids, but they have like dog kids or whatever. And like especially me, like this guy, he goes anywhere and does whatever he wants, and he's yeah. So I did not like that comment at all. But
And
speaking
I'm
of
someone who doesn't have human or dog kids, and I still didn't like the comment either.
well, I feel like as long as you're not like a sociopath, people just like dogs.
Yeah.
But um speaking of dogs, Kellyanne has a dog rescue that she kind of talks a little bit about, and we get to see some pictures. And she kind of starts comparing her castmates to dogs, and
This is
mentions
funny.
that Sylvia is a Doberman, which I thought was pretty funny.
Funny and so far in this season relatively accurate.
Honestly, especially after that last episode and their argument. Um, I guess Frank makes a small comment about how he doesn't really care about anybody when he's
Yeah.
consoling Kellyanne. But one thing I do want to talk about, I feel like season 40 we didn't have much to talk about before the daily, but I feel like this season there is more happening because we don't really have like a club scene or whatever, so
Yeah.
most of it happens during the beginning. Sam and Anissa kind of have a bond over their unathleticism, which
In a show called The Challenge is relatively comedic.
yeah, and I will get into it about because I have a lot of thoughts on this. I'll get into it later in our podcast episode, but I don't know. I feel like Anissa, she is again saying like, "Oh, athletes are, or I'm finally an athlete according to TJ or whatever." Which I don't know what everybody considers the definition of athlete. But yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a part of something that I'll go into later.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment. It just made me think of World Championships when I think it was Emily who had to leave, and her partner then ends up working with Casey because there was a medical
Amber
event.
had to leave.
Amber, that's right. And this just threw me into that where I'm just like, if somehow by some sort of random twist, Frank and Ashley could become a team, they would probably win this season.
Oh, absolutely. And we see that they're kind of, I feel like we need to see more of Frank actually bonding over this because they're pretty much in the same situation
Yeah,
with
exactly.
their athletic abilities and then their part athletic abilities. We kind of get to Adam being very sick.
Yeah.
Um, he Steve says it's coming out of both him. He's not doing very well. And you could just see how unwell he was and how like it wasn't just a random he threw up type of thing. He was really sick.
Yeah. Adam seems like it's going to be a very difficult episode for him. Um, Having to, in what is probably, I assume, seeing that we just finished 40, like 105-degree weather, have to do a daily and then possibly an elimination with under the conditions that he is in.
Absolutely. Obviously we watched the episode last night, but when I was watching this during this point of the episode, I was pretty worried for him because I don't
Yeah.
understand how if he is running back and forth from his bed in the toilet, he's gonna be able to compete in anything.
Yeah, I was sitting there going like, if this is not a season where last place ends up in the elimination. We have a vote and we have the winners get to choose who goes in against them. So I was just like, if I'm Adam in this spot or Steve in this spot, I'm saying just sit in the air conditioning.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no point trying to compete, but hey, they do.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. So then moving on to the daily, we have a daily called Ball Buster where players have to jump into a ball pit and collect as many balls as they can for their team color, then race through the course and place them on I guess, some sort of track. I don't really know what it would be called, but
Contraption
yeah,
that goes into a pit.
exactly. And when they retrieve 10 balls, then they have to just go and complete the puzzle. And the first team to do so is both safe from elimination and gets to select who will go against the house vote.
Yeah, I kind of had a question about this daily. So if they drop a ball, is that ball then eliminated?
That's a good question, probably.
Because I saw Corey and Big T, they got too many balls, they had to leave one behind or something like that.
Yeah.
But then I thought it was like when they were, because I saw them, like obviously during the contraption going over the net, I think I saw them like get up a ball from the floor, and
Hmm?
it's just like if you set it on the floor, but you can't drop it.
I totally missed that.
I don't know. I could have also just seen things, but I don't know. I was kind of confused with the rules of what, because if it doesn't matter if you drop it, I would still grab as many as I can. If I drop it, I'll just pick it up. It's better than having to do twice as much work.
Exactly.
So I'm not really sure how that was. But early challenge, I thought this was funny. Melissa is struggling to understand Nicole.
I found this
Um,
hilarious too because I find it very difficult to understand Nicole, but unlike a lot of people online, because I know her area very well, I understand Melissa perfectly, but I know how the audience finds it so difficult to understand her at the same time.
See, I find Melissa easier to understand than Nicole.
Yeah.
Nicole, I don't think anybody can understand.
No.
And people from Boston or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that was pretty funny. We get kind of two sides of Frank throughout the challenge based on his commentary early on in the challenge, saying that he's proud of Sam, she's working hard, she's giving it her all. But then that changes later on. I was pretty impressed with Adam's effort and how even though he's obviously deathly ill, he
Yeah.
still was a contender to win this daily, him and
Yeah.
Steve were.
Agreed with both of those. Adam certainly outperformed what I would have expected. In the case of Frank and Sam, you do see that positivity to start, but then Sam doesn't finish the challenge, and Frank is right back to where he was at the beginning of the episode. Understandably, if you're not finishing and you're not Adam in this situation.
We see that Anissa scared of the net because she dislocated her shoulder. I don't know. I'm getting lost with all the injuries or whatever that she's
Yeah.
had. And I think
Well,
like Ashley,
that's a sign of someone who's been on the challenge too much across the entire career. But yay, we've just got some unofficial rumors of a fan casting of a future cast coming out this week. So great.
Ashley is kind of getting annoyed with this, which I completely understand.
Yeah.
I would be too. Especially because Ashley was away for a few years from the show, and this is her comeback
Yeah,
season. And
2021 to 2025.
yeah, it just seems frustrating to not to perform the way that you want to perform. And I just think Anissa just cannot keep expecting to just show up every season and find a lame excuse for not being able to do like a lot of the daily challenges or eliminations or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know, it's always something different, and we see like a great example of always trying, I think, is Beth because she's like nearly 60,
Yeah,
and we saw her during that elimination absolutely busting her ass and
absolutely.
performing. I'm more worried about health issues coming to somebody who's nearing 60 than somebody who's in their 40s.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
No, I'd completely agree with you there. Um, then we see Veronica saying herself and Katie can't win. I mean, we all saw this before the challenge started, but that was funny.
I think Veronica is also a good example of like somebody who's maybe not very athletic right
Yeah.
now in this time in her life, but they're still trying, they're still competing. They didn't quit.
Oh, absolutely.
They went through it. And speaking of quitting, Sam starts to complain about the heat, and then she ends up just like Frank asked her, like, okay, let's keep going. We got another one. And then she's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't. Um,
It's only going to
couple
escalate between these two as long as they're in the game.
I have a couple thoughts on this. The first thing is that this is a flaw of not having a last place finisher or
It
last
is.
place finisher going into elimination, because if you have a good political game, it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
if you last or if you get second.
I don't
It
know
only
what
really
you think,
matters
but
if
I
you
always
win.
find that it should just be a universally across every season that at least they can change up how to determine who goes in, but last place should always go in.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
Otherwise, we just have situations where everybody is trying to vote out constant second and third place finishers in to weaken the competition.
Yeah, and this is not really a problem with these last few seasons. Sorry, my just pushing this back a little bit. It's more of it was an issue more in older seasons, I would say, but it was when there was Girls' Day and Boys' Day,
Yeah.
and you would really see during Girls' Day they got trying as hard, Boys' Day, vice versa. I think she found a good way to combat that with the penalty going into the next.
Yeah.
But another thing I want to talk about with Sam quitting is that I understand that Vietnam is probably so hot. I would also be probably dying if I was there. But at the same time, everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is
I'll
competing.
provide a temperature update. I'll be in Thailand and Cambodia in December.
Yeah, let us know. But I don't know. I think if like we saw like Michelle last season, she had a heat stroke.
Yeah.
Did she quit?
No.
No, she just literally went, and I'm not
Couldn't.
saying that they should get a heat stroke. I'm just saying that water's provided. And even Adam, who is so sick, able
Yeah.
to not quit. So I don't know. I don't think that that was as valid as an excuse, in my
I'd
opinion.
agree. I think there's only so much you can do in the time being, but at the same time, they should kind of use people's performance in the dailies as far as not necessarily how well they do, but in terms of if they're just quitting dailies as a reason to not bring people back on a future season.
Sorry, I was adjusting that.
Oh, that's okay.
But yeah, I think that's a great point, but I don't think that they have done that necessarily because we still see Anissa every
Yeah.
season that she gets called for. And she has quit a lot of things, but I don't know. I think it's more of it has to be like a format change, making sure that like you're not getting last, but also you're trying to compete and also do well. Because it's not very entertaining to watch a daily challenge like the first challenge where half the teams didn't even do anything.
Exactly.
And then one of the three teams who actually did the challenge ended up going into elimination. I don't know. I feel like instead of punishing people who actually try, the format should be more favored toward people who try and against people who didn't even do
Yeah.
it. Kind of like
So,
All Stars 4.
right.
I think it was like if you were in the middle of the pack, you were good, but if you were in the bottom of the pack, then you're screwed.
Exactly. I like that. So, speaking of people that are actually trying this season, Devin and Leeroy win the daily again, and they seem to be the team to beat at this point. This is so-called rivals, and Devin and Leeroy are working together perfectly.
Absolutely. They absolutely crushed it. I think that Leroy and Devin kind of complement each other's strengths and weaknesses very well. Like we see Leroy, who's somebody who's overly physical, maybe have that much in puzzles or solving things. And Devin he definitely is physical. We've seen him do a
Oh yeah.
lot of physical things. Is he known as a physical heavy player? No.
No.
But
But he
he is,
definitely in this sort of a cast has his intellectual game, but can boost his physical game to a top level the way it might be harder for him if he's against a Theo or Jordan or Bananas or CT.
yeah, like because when I think of like a physical competitor, I would say someone like Fessy. You've known
Yeah,
him for his
exactly.
physical strength. Devin is still very strong. He still trains his physical strength, but he's not someone like
I
a
mean,
Leroy.
we clearly know it's important to him. Him and Michelle are training on vacation right now.
Absolutely.
That
I
is not what I would be doing if I
really,
was on vacation.
and at the end of the episode, if we want, we can talk about some of the rumored names that we've heard. Um, but
Sounds good. We'll definitely,
um,
when that season is going to come up, do
we'll
a
still do a
full
cast
cast
reveal.
review when it's all official. But
Yes.
we can go into that. If we get to that point, we'll give you a warning. You can people if you don't want cast spoilers, turn it off. Obviously, we won't talk about any elimination spoilers. One, they're not out yet. Two, we're not paying attention to them. But I I don't know about you. I don't really consider casting spoilers to be a real spoiler because it's just who's on the show, not necessarily what actually happens in the show.
Exactly. And it's revealed before the show even starts,
Yeah.
like even on air. So I agree with
MTV
that.
puts it on Twitter a month before.
But yeah, I really hope we see both of them on 42 because I am missing Michelle this season.
Yeah.
I feel like for like the last 2 years, we've always either had her on or an upcoming season that she's coming on. And she probably needs a break. That's probably why she didn't do it. But I really hope that during this break she continues to train and just
Absolutely.
we can see her on
Which is
42.
more than fair. I definitely think we could see that. I also think just with the nature of All Stars, and now that Michelle has made a final, she could easily become a like All Stars 6 or 7 champion.
Absolutely.
Because
And
I
who
think
knows?
now we've moved, especially with this season, and I don't think we really talked that much about it. Maybe a little cast analysis, but All Stars is now moved on from people who were on the real world to people who made a final.
Well, Big T isn't made a final.
True. So then it's for anyone they feel like, essentially.
Um, yeah, and I don't know. I hope that I would love to see her on All Stars, but I feel like with all the training that she's done and her athleticism that she's like obviously worked on, she like that is more of an advantage on the flagship than
Absolutely.
on All Stars. Because on All Stars, I mean, we've seen, which is something I do want to talk about before we move on to after the daily, but aside from this season, it's always been less physical challenges, like more carnival gaming.
Yeah.
And like we've seen how good Michelle's endurance has gotten, and how well she does like in the water and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like it depends on the season, but I could still see maybe her training that she's doing off season work better for her on the
Oh,
flagship.
for sure.
But okay, I do before we move on, I do want to talk about how it feels like the first daily challenge and then this challenge have been pretty physical. And I feel like it's definitely an advantage for for the teams that are either two males or male and female.
Yeah.
I see people like Veronica and Katie at a disadvantage.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna.
Melissa and Nicole, they were fine, but you could still see that they weren't at the top of the pack
Fair.
either. Um, and then same with
I
the
think long
last.
term though, they'll probably be fine as long as they're getting along, and they seem to be because of all the all female teams. They're probably just in the best physical shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I mean, we've seen the eliminations have been pretty equal to a point where like physical strength maybe isn't like the only factor in there. But I don't know. I hope that everybody has a fair chance to win. Um, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so moving into after the daily, we see Adam is getting worse and that he and Steve realize they're probably going to go in. We'll get to this in the houseboat, but at this point, I thought it was a good point that my dad was making that he was just like, of course they're going to go in because you want to leave people with a contagious disease sitting around the house to make everybody sick.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of it like that. Because you probably, if you see how deathly ill he is, you probably don't want to get that same disease.
Yeah.
But we see that Steve and Nicole are caring for him, which I appreciated seeing. Because I feel like even if you're not very close with him and Steve, it would be nice to. We don't know, we don't get to see everything, but just kind of check in and be like, "Can I bring you some water? Can I bring
Yeah.
you soup?" I don't know.
I appreciated seeing this, but I also wrote down, did MTV try to save money and fire the EMT and make Nicole work for free? Because that is one of her many 911 related careers.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny. I didn't think about that, but you do make a good.
Because not only is Steve sitting behind closed doors with his teammate, but randomly with Nicole as well while he's dying on the TV.
Yeah, I mean,
Adam, I mean, not Steve.
um, yeah, that was interesting to see. But we, after this sickness segment, I guess you would call it, we see Sylvia and Kellyanne talking over their differences and
Yeah,
their problems,
it seems
which,
to be finally they're getting onto a better page. How long that'll last. I mean, now in real life, it seems like it's lasted quite a while based on the social media last night. But how long it'll last in the game, who knows?
Yeah, and that's always been one of my favorite parts of the rival seasons and like Final Reckoning, I guess, is seeing the pairs go from hating each other to kind of working through their differences, even if they had fights early on in the
Yeah,
season. Just kind of talking it over and like understanding that they like in order for them to perform well, they need to have good team chemistry and the only way to get that is to really talk about why you dislike this person and apologize and move on.
yeah, absolutely. It's also interesting just to see how that carries over from one season to the next, and if a rival season can really make things better, because we've seen some people actually be in rival seasons and then go on to being allies later. We've also seen people get along great when they're in a rival season. I'm thinking of an infamous moment in Argentina with Laurel consoling Cara Maria, and look how that's turned out. They've been on again, off again for 20 years at this point.
Yeah. Um,
Well,
and
maybe
I
not
remember
20 years, 15 years.
right after they started off badly, Wes poured Coke or Sprite or something on Kara's head. And then Laurel and her stood up for her. They became friends. Free agents happened. And then Laurel decides to not protect Kara. And
Yep.
then it's literally an up and down, up and down, up and down.
And I think we
Um,
finally got out of that sequence when it hit a very big low last All Stars and on 40.
yeah. Well, I think before, because I they did mention that prior to coming into 40, after All Stars, they kind of once Laurel won, they kind of said like, you know what, like they kind of had worked over their differences. Maybe they weren't friends, but they were like friendly to each other. And even beginning of 40, we see like Kara making a joke like, Laurel, you got to stop beating me at everything. And just kind of like, instead of having that animosity, but we obviously see what that turned into. And I think now it's at a point of no return with where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Um,
so moving in, I guess we'll go to the vote next. Or is there anything else you want to
I
say?
have one
Go
more
ahead.
thing from that that I had written down is that Anissa, there was a segment with Ashley kind of getting frustrated with her performance after the daily, but also her lack of training during the show. And Anissa kind of talks about how she trains during the off season, but when she is on the show, she doesn't work out at all. And she focuses more on building her social game bonds while she's there. And this made Ashley
That might
very frustrated.
that might work better when Tori can protect you, but it won't work here.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't seem like because Anissa, I guess we saw her on like one All-Star season, but it doesn't, she hasn't been on that many compared to Adam and Steve or people that have been doing the last couple seasons. So Anissa's political power isn't as big as it usually is, partly because Tori's not there, but also partly because the people that are there aren't people that she plays with.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
But yeah,
so moving into the house vote, Adam and Steve, I mean, they ask everybody to keep them around because of Adam's illness. At that, this was never going to happen, but at the same time, it's great to see that they're actually trying and not making this just an automatic we can go home because I'm sick. Because as we all know, these sort of viral infections you'll probably recover from before the next daily.
this made me feel bad, like so bad for Adam, because I was
Yeah.
like thinking, like he's a dad, like, and I just like think of like he's a couple years younger than my dad, but I just think of like my dad if he was sick and he's like begging everybody to just give him a day off, and then everybody's like, nah, fuck you, you're going in.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
felt really bad for him during that situation, but I agree with it was good that he at least tried um
And
in
we,
that.
even though almost the entire house makes a unanimous decision here. We do get a couple of different votes. Um, Adam and Steve voted for Frank and Sam, who they've asked to be the competition in the arena. And then Katie and Veronica vote for Corey and Big T randomly. Just my guess, but I think this has more to do with Katie and Veronica saying Corey and Big T are not real All Stars. So we're going to burn our vote on them to make a point. I don't know if that was your take or not, but I was like, where did this vote come from?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it more of this is just the people that they don't know or have the least connections to.
Makes
But
sense.
I think it could also definitely be that they don't see them as real all-stars, but at the same time, like it's not they don't get to choose if or not they get a call. They just get to choose if they get to come in or not.
Yeah.
And at least like Big T debuted before Fessy and Amber.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it could be them saying like you aren't OG enough, but I could also see it just being like, okay, like we don't know you guys, but we know everybody else.
I also thought that this might have been played a bit poorly if the focus was that I wanted to get Adam out of the house while he's unwell. Because I would have thought if you're looking at um trying to have that happen, seeing that you'll probably get Devin and Leeroy to agree with you that they would have been better off nominating a very heavy hitting team to go, knowing that Adam and Steve will probably go in that way, as opposed to say what we ended up seeing where they vote for Adam and Steve, who then have their opponents be Kellyanne and Sylvia, that are rather mid tier, to for lack of a better term.
I think what like the way I understood it was Devin and Roy have no advantage, I guess, or no advantage in getting out Adam and Steve because the house is going to continue to vote them in unless they
Yeah.
win. They've already said their name. They've already gone in once. And I think by them talking to them and putting not they
Excuse me.
didn't put in the team that they wanted to put in or they didn't put in Sam and Frank the ones that they asked for,
Yeah.
but I think by them asking or putting in I guess a weaker team that wasn't going to ruffle too many feathers with Sylvia and Kelly or with them going in, but also a team that they could beat in a lot of things was just kind of almost throwing Adam and Steve a bone in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then Adam and Steve are happy they got an easier team and they can continue to say their name. And because if they leave, they're going to have to make another enemy. And you don't really want to show your cards too early in the game. Uh,
Right.
so I don't know.
All right, so we get into the elimination, where players have to solve a puzzle while a rope is unraveling. Um, they'll pick up the unraveling rope in the air for 5 minutes. If they drop it, the 5 minutes restarts. And the first pair to complete 5 minutes without dropping it stays in the game. Um, Adam and Steve finished the puzzle first, giving them a bit of an advantage. Then they find a strategy to wrap rope around them, which works. Sylvia and Kellyanne are not finding the same strategy, and this is really a final. This is really a elimination that is just all about how you approach the challenge and doesn't really put Adam at such a big disadvantage over his current condition, as long as he is not so sick that can be focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, I think they made the right choice by making Steve be the one that just kind of had it piled on top of him and
Yeah.
then Adam just kind of focusing on reeling in around. I mean, Adam did still have a lot of the rope on him. But yeah, they definitely chose the right strategy Initially, Sylvia and Kellyanne just were letting it drop. They kind of realized like, oh, it's not gonna work. All this rope that's on here. So they kind of they did switch their strategy a little bit, but I think Adam and Steve just really had the right mindset of just keep tangling it around but the both of them until the 5 minutes is up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads Adam and Steve to overcoming the disadvantage that they have and getting the win.
Yeah, I was really impressed with them getting this win. Um, I think they did a great job. They had the great strategy, and I could see, especially because this is one of the more fresh rivalries, it's good to see them both working very well together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leaves Sylvia and Kellyanne to have to go back to the house, pack, and move out. But based on the content last night on Instagram, it seems like this experience, even though it started off rough for them, has really been able to improve the relationship.
Yeah, and I was happy to see that they were friends again after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in this point, I did get one kick out of Shane's confessional saying that it's just now that Sylvia's out, it's just me and Ashley representing the Lavender Ladies. To which I screamed at the TV, thank God, because that means Amanda's not on this show.
Yeah, which I agree. I don't. I love
I,
Ashley.
I love Ashley. I love Shane. I do not want to watch them with Amanda.
Yeah, and it is possible to be an Ashley Millionaire Mitchell lover, but an Amanda disliker.
Yeah,
After the elimination, we do get some more content, I guess.
yeah,
Specifically, it was Anise making a red joke about getting a redneck ice cube for her redneck partner, and I can
yeah.
say this because she's my partner.
And a couple of observations here. First is that you can tell by this point not only Anissa and Ashley, but most of the house seems to be at least a little bit drunk, probably more than that. And that kind of leads it to be a bigger deal than would have been otherwise. And the second thing is that Ashley immediately goes into this tirade throwback to when she is the only person to ever got voted off of the real world. When she goes into this, do you know how rich I am? My mom has a Jaguar. I have a Volvo. People from West Virginia are sophisticated. And it's like,
I lived in a 3-story house.
yeah. It's like most of us outside of West Virginia don't live in that either.
Yeah, and then we see Anissa apologizing to Ashley, and Ashley's not taking this well, because she's saying, I never joke about personal stuff about you. And I had my thoughts on this kind of changed from when I initially watched the episode and then when I was doing my notes for the podcast. At first I was like, you know what, Ashley's probably drunk.
Yeah.
She always makes redneck comments. I think she was probably overreacting about like, okay, like it's you were oops, because she had called herself a redneck earlier in the episode that I noticed. But then when I was writing my notes, I kind of realized that Ashley has a point because Ashley could make jokes or could make digs about Anissa's personal stuff. She could talk about her ankle or her lack of endurance. So she could make jokes about things that are personal, but she doesn't do that. Um, and it's kind of like I understand why she's like, don't joke about personal stuff to me because I can say a lot of things about you that you're not gonna like.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I definitely don't think that this is that like Ashley's response is going to be the way she handles this the full time of the show. It is very difficult to accept an apology when you're wasted, but I still think that they could move on from this. But at the same time, I think this is probably just the start of Ashley and Anissa's relationship on the show. And if you like teammates fighting on rivals, it's probably going to just keep going up levels every single week until the at some point either win or are not on the show anymore.
And we see how much tension between rival pairs really does take into account how their performance is. Um, and I mean, unless in some odd, like for the most part, if you get along very well together, you're probably going to perform a lot better than the people who don't get along.
Right.
But it kind of did bring me back to Rivals 3 of Tony and Camilla when they had a fight and Tony threw eggs or something. This wasn't the one where he got kicked out of it. It was the one before that.
Yeah.
But the next daily, they I think they ended up winning and they were like, when it's not in the game, we fight, but when it's game time, we bring it or whatever,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of funny.
That was.
But yeah, for the most part, that it's not, if you get along well and if you're working together well, you're going to perform a lot better.
All right. So who's your team of the week?
My team of the week went to Adam and Steve because their ability to overcome their illness or Adam's illness, also seeing how supportive Steve has been of Adam with like for him oh kind of stepping the elimination and being like, okay, I'm gonna take the bulk of the weight from the rope. And just overall how when you're literally on the verge of death, just seeing it was really inspiring to see how badly Adam wants to be there. And I think with a lot of the castmates, kind of like Derek Kaczynski and other people, they kind of like maybe they don't get the call every season or they didn't get the call for a long time. So when they do get the call, they really, really want to be there and they are
Yeah.
wanting to win their so I don't know. It was I love seeing how no matter what they both gave it their best effort. Steve was very supportive of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave this team an honorable mention. I really wanted to put them as my top. I ended up giving my team of the week to Leroy and Devin. Not only did they win the daily, did they throw in the team that ended up going home, but they just seemed to be like watching Leroy and Devin. I'm sitting there going, they're just having so much fun. Is this rivals or is this ride or dies?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that because their team chemistry has been so good. It seems that they're communicating very well.
And I could
Um,
see this being something that rivals maybe in somewhere in the 40s brings Leroy into working with not only Devin, but with Michelle, with Tori as part of a bigger alliance that could maybe get him to that final he's been trying so hard for.
yeah, or getting to that win.
Yeah.
You mean he's pretty good at making
So
the
I may
finals,
have
just
the
not.
same I may have the same condition as Adam right now, as you can probably tell by my voice.
Oh, that's not good. For my loser
Or at
of the
least I did
week,
yesterday. I'm 1,000 times better this morning.
hopefully it was a 24-hour thing and
Yeah, I think
you're
so.
good now. For my loser of the week, I had a tie between Anissa and Ashley. Shh, Leo. Sorry,
That's okay.
Ale- Anissa and Ashley and Frank and Sam. This is only because of one half of the partnership. So that's why I decided to make it a tie. I'm like, okay, half of this partnership and the other half, that's a team. I don't understand why they came so unprepared. And it my comments are probably very harsh, but I don't know. I feel like when you get an opportunity to go compete, to go get paid to be there, you should try your best and come prepared, or even if you're not prepared, at least like don't give up or don't try to make lame excuses. Sam, I understand more because she hasn't been back in so long, but Anissa, it's the same thing every season. Exhausting. There's always excuses. And Sam should have just never given up because everybody else is also hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I went with Anissa and Ashley in this one, but it could have easily gone for Frank and Sam as well. Anissa and Ashley, I just think is going to be we saw chapter one at the end of this episode. I feel like there's a whole book that's coming in the next few episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel for because when there's an individual season, it's all you still have to make alliances and stuff,
Yep.
but when you're not only dragging down the performance of yourself but also your partner, I I feel for Frank, I feel for Ashley because they prepared, they came ready to win. They want to be there, they want to win the game, and these people are just trying to it's almost like they came to be like, let's see how many get paid.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's it for this episode. Any thoughts you have on this, at least so far, unofficial cast release for 41? I know some names are starting to get added, some are still dropping off, maybe that were alternates, but that is all over the internet now. Let's start with the vets.
Yeah, well, I want to say it is being filmed in Chile,
Yep,
which sounds like a great location.
it does.
Um, I don't know if it's not as far as Vietnam, right?
No, it depends where in Chile, to be fair. Chile is the longest and narrowest, well, second longest country in the world after Russia. It is the narrowest country in the world. If you put Chile between, like, on one end touching like New York, the other end would go into Europe.
Oh, really?
So, but the actual distance to cross it from like the ocean to Argentina, it can be at 8, 9 miles at the shortest points. So
Yeah.
depending on where they're filming will greatly depend on how far the trip is to get there. But no, it's definitely not as far as Vietnam. I mean, I've flown to like direct between North America and China. And when you're doing that, it's like if you're timing it, you're basically saying, let's leave Canada, go on an aerial tour of London, and then fly home all in one flight.
Wow. For
So
some
Vietnam is
for some reason,
extremely far.
you flew to China, you would go through the Pacific Ocean. No.
You
Um,
could, when I did it, it was way back in 2019. We did um, Shanghai. Oh no, so not Shanghai. Guangzhou, China to Toronto, and it was over top of China, Mongolia, Russia, Canada. Straight. I've seen the North Pole with my own eyes.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But moving on to I just have Gamer Vevs. Shout out to Gamer for providing us the cast of this season. But I have his Instagram page pulled up so we can see go through some of the names we've seen. First
Sounds
name
good. I'll do the
is Johnny
same.
Maz, to no one's surprise.
Yeah, and no one's surprised. Not necessarily going to say to everyone's excitement, but
Yeah, I mean even though he is older, he's still making finals.
if Johnny wants to be on the challenge, Johnny will be on the challenge. I don't think many other people can say that in this franchise.
Absolutely. And I do applaud him for his like we always see him coming in very good physical shape. He wins a lot of dailies. He's never somebody that you can fully count out to make it to the end and even win in the end.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The next person is um you're, I already talked a lot about her today.
Yeah, we'll see if she, I mean, I'm sure she's been putting work into it over the off season. Hopefully, seeing that there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's a noticeable name not on this list for the first time in what, like, it feels like 10 seasons other than Battle for a New Champion, that Anissa puts in a little bit more work into the challenges while she's in Chile, but we'll see.
Uh Yeah. And then another thing is there's a rumor that it's kind of a War of the Worlds style of gameplay where, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the rookies kind of pick or the vets pick whatever rookie they want to work with, and it's a team
Yeah,
season, possibly team season. Sometimes the Worlds it didn't remain a team season.
no.
But I kind of like this format. I do hope that it goes till the end because I like to see more different winners.
Yeah.
Next up is Leroy. Um, I think Leroy's retirement lasted about
Shorter
a
than
week.
Wes's, that's for sure.
And now he's been on every single season that he's been available for, so not 39, I guess, but
Yeah.
we'll see how he performs. He looks like he's in good physical, and we'll see how that goes. I hope he gets a partner that is good at his weaknesses though.
Yeah. And then next we got I think the first lock for an alliance on this cast, and that is Olivia and Derek, who are great friends outside the game. I can't wait to see both of them back. Especially
Absolutely.
both the fact that both of them are just coming off 40 is I'm actually kind of surprised to see them both back, seeing how many people from 40 it looks like decided not to come back, but very excited for it.
Yeah, and I follow Olivia on Instagram and she has been training like a army person.
Yeah,
Like she has really, really stepped up her, like, because she was already super athletic, but she has been just stepping everything up. She's doing a lot of endurance things. And I'm super excited to see her on this season. I think that she has spent a lot of time in the off season working on maybe things that aren't her strengths. Like we saw even on 40, she was the second girl to finish that one 3D puzzle.
yeah.
So I think Olivia is definitely somebody that can win. Same with Derek. Obviously, he had an amazing performance on season 40, so I'm
And while
looking
we're
forward to
talking
seeing
about
him.
Olivia, I can't not mention it. Theo is on this cast, so another person Olivia could work with, well, will work with. Um, just looking at this so far, I think the three of them are probably in the best spot on day one, which is like probably today or tomorrow is day one.
Yeah, that's crazy to think that they're like, I don't know, they're
Either
competing.
moving in right now as we talk, because Chile is on our time zone, or, well, on my time zone, or they are sitting in a hotel going, tomorrow morning, it's go time.
Yeah. Next up we have some people that I don't know. Um, what's her name? America and Blue.
Yeah,
I don't watch Big Brother. They're both from
neither
Big
do
Brother.
I, but I hear that they're both massive names in Big Brother 25. Um, America is still in a relationship with Corey from her season, who, if you knew, did you watch Survivor 42?
No,
Okay,
I didn't watch
so
42.
no problem. For the
Wait,
audience,
no.
the
No,
one that
I didn't.
Marianne won and Mike came second.
Mm-mm.
Okay, fair enough. So for the audience, um, that did see that, Corey is Zach, who was the first Boots brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't watched 42 because I was like, I remember I watched 41 and then I don't like the new era
So
gameplay, so I didn't watch 42. But then I started watching 43 because Cody from 43 is so my boyfriend's family comes from a super, super small town. It's called Preston, Iowa.
oh well.
um like less than like 1,000 people, and that's where he's from, and his family knows their family or whatever, so then we started that's how I got back into watching Survivor. But anyways,
Nice.
we have Jeremy.
Yeah, he was on The Amazing Race. I don't remember him, despite the fact that I watched that show. I'll have to see what season he was on. I might have missed it.
I'm so sorry, is he, never mind. Just, are you picture on there?
Pardon? Yeah, I
Are you
have a.
looking at the picture? Why
Yeah,
does it look like he's missing a nipple? It's not, it just
that's
looked
a
like
great point.
I was like,
I
what is
think it's
going on?
just the sun, but
Yeah, it is. I was like, what is that?
and
Um,
I don't know who either, but Blue on this cast, I do know. I've heard of her on Instagram. because on Big Brother she had a showmance with Suri's son.
Oh, okay. Which a lot of people didn't like Surrey's son, right?
Yeah,
That's what I got
who
from.
I don't know if you've heard the funny story, but I'll tell you after.
Okay. The next vet that we have is Cara Maria. Um, I remember, or if anybody isn't chronically online like I am, Cara had some controversial comments
Yeah,
under an Instagram post, which she has apologized for them since.
which I wasn't
Um,
sure if that would affect her spot on this season, but she's back. So
yeah.
I'm always down to see Kara again. I think she's a great player in the show. People's viewpoints that are ultimately today, as Bruce and I always bring up when this kind of stuff happens in Survivor, gets so divisive that I try to tune it out of reality TV. But
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say some of the things that she said are um just they spread a lot of hate for um communities and
yeah,
stuff. So I think that I don't agree with any of those statements, but I also agree with the fact that we can't like half of these players are on one side, the other half are on the other side. We don't know. And I personally watch people for their for who they are on reality TV. If you're a shitty person outside of it, or if you say things that aren't very nice, I agree with just kind of putting that on the back burner, not really thinking about it,
yeah.
and just enjoying the character who I love
And
on
next
TV.
we have another returning player from 40, and that's Aviva's coming back, which I am very excited about. She was amazing on 40, having had probably the longest gap between seasons of anyone who has got the chance to be called for a second season, and went very deep in the game.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see Aviv again. I do remember that she had mentioned that she just wasn't called until 40. That's why she wasn't back on the challenge.
Yeah,
So I'm really happy that she received a call and I'm really excited to see her again. We have D from Survivor 45 next.
probably the biggest name coming in on this cast. I think most
Absolutely.
people think that, not necessarily everybody, but most fans of Survivor who are into the new era game think that Dia is the best player of the new era. So it'll be interesting to see how she brings that to the challenge, what sorts of experience she can keep, but then at the same time, it is such a different game as we've seen, like with players like Michelle and Jay having a bit of a difficult time to find their footing and be like, this is not a show where we can just backstab people and be, hey, good game, see you next season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to see D. I follow her on Instagram and it looks like she works out and trains a lot.
Yeah,
So I think she's somebody that physically is going to perform very well.
and she lives in
Um,
Miami, so she has the ability to just train all the time, and great area to do it in.
yeah, and also on Survivor, she won like a lot of immunity challenges, so I think that she's probably going to do pretty well. Not just physically, but like in things like puzzles and stuff.
Yeah.
The next person I don't know.
I know nothing about this person either, but his name is Justin. He's from something called Netflix Cheer. Maybe they'll tell us what it is. Maybe I'll probably look it up before we do an actual cast review once we have a final cast and we're like a few weeks out from the new season.
This next name was announced, but it was then taken back, so he's
So
not actually on.
yeah,
But I did get excited when I saw it initially. And that's Wes.
yeah, that
Um,
was exciting for a little while. But it was confirmed that Wes is also, it was confirmed though that Wes wasn't removed or anything. He just wasn't on the show. So
okay,
he
that's what I
probably is
was.
retired. What I'm imagining is there was probably like pictures that went up or something of people noticing Wes in an airport, and it caused the rumor to be spread online that Wes is going to the challenge and Wes is living his life and had to fly somewhere.
Do you want to know something funny? I don't know if you know this. And I remember somebody taught, I don't remember where I heard it, but apparently Wes, he has his Patreon or whatever, and he told his Patreon people that he was gonna, because he had a theory that Josh connects with gamer a lot
Mm.
and like tells gamer things or whatever. So he texted Josh and said, "I'm going on whatever season." He wasn't actually on there. He was never going to be on there. And then that same day there was a tweet from, oh, bless you.
Thanks.
That same day there was a tweet gamer saying um really expecting Wes here, like the
So that
Wes will be there
makes some
confirmed.
sense.
And then obviously Wes wasn't on there. So he was just doing it to test out his theory of Josh feeding gamer information.
Well, if that was his test,
So it
it
could have
seems to
been.
have worked. But we do have a player from All Stars that's coming back to the flagship, and that's Nani.
Yeah, I missed Nani after she took a few seasons off. I think Nani is somebody who probably has the best political game
Yeah.
out there. Nobody wants to say her name. Nobody wants to vote her in. Uh, and we'll see because we haven't really seen too much of her performance. Her and Turbo do have a star right now. So, she's definitely staying in shape. I'm excited to see her.
All right, moving on. Another couple of players coming back from 40. First is Naya, who really got a new shot at this last season to overcome some challenges that she's had playing the challenge before, and really took full advantage of it and got herself into the Ladies Leisure Alliance. Again, how many of these vets are friends with Olivia? Olivia is in the best spot of anyone by far.
Not just politically, her training,
Yeah,
like she's gonna put herself out there. I'm super excited to see, Naya back. I love
yeah,
her.
same.
Her commentary is just top notch. Like I remember one time she made a comment of when she got last place in the daily and had to go into elimination, but she said like Michelle's a badass, Olivia's a badass. She, like they can go into elimination, they'll be fine, but I cannot be going, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
Um, Another name I'm super excited to return from 40 is Derek.
Yeah,
Um,
this was a name I was not expecting, but really excited to see.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting him either, but again, it just like brings me back to like Adam saying like, well, we don't know how many of these we have left in us, and like it made me sad when Jordan during the reunion was making fun of Derek for not always getting the call and like not being called in seasons or whatever. I don't know. I just love
I
seeing
get
him
both ways. I
compete.
didn't like Jordan necessarily saying that to Derek. I also get the same kind of sense. I mean, Jordan saying it, he came from the real world Portland, so whatever, same thing. But when you get older players who say like people who didn't come from the real world or from Road Rules have no business on this show, well, that's production's decision, not yours.
Yeah, but Derek, on 40, we just saw him. He was in three eliminations, won two of them, and got very close on the one that he lost. I think he's who has so much heart and is just an absolute physical beast that will always give it his all. So I'm really excited for him.
This Nick's name I am ecstatic about. I've always said she is born for MTV and not for Survivor, but this is Sydney from Survivor 41. Probably the victim of the dumbest twist in the history of reality television when Jeff decided to give Erica the power to say the people who won the immunity challenge lost and the people who lost it won, like complete nonsense. But Sydney is going to be an amazing challenger. She, based on her Instagram, wakes up at like 5 in the morning and runs the Brooklyn Bridge every day. She works out a lot, so she's very physically fit. She's also just perfect for MTV in the fact that she's totally uncensored and lets everybody know her opinions, whether it be about what's going on in Survivor or about global politics or anything else that comes to her mind goes onto her Instagram page. So I think being a rookie, it might be a little harder for her. I think she's probably all of these rookies the most likely to become a mainstay in this show, and someone who, as long as she's in the show, is just going to be gold in the confessional room.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited to see her. I also felt really, really bad when she was a victim of the hourglass twist. So I don't know. I hope that she has a good transition into MTV and the challenge world, and I hope she's somebody that, like you said, can be a mainstay. Next is I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher this. Aeolika? Aeolika?
Yes. I don't know anything about this person, but I am ecstatic to see her on this cast because we have had international players from England and Spain and Australia and Germany and Israel for years. And Iolika is the first Canadian to be on the challenge. And it seems like they just announced another one today that we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. I didn't know that she's the first Canadian. I had no clue that they haven't casted any Canadians,
Yeah,
which makes sense because hello, Canada is literally right there. Why are we casting from so many other countries? But she was on Canada's Ultimate Challenge, it
it's
says.
basically like a show that's similar to the challenge without the drama on Canadian television.
I'm just looking at her Instagram. She has a master's in kinesiology, certified personal trainer. Don't know what the other one means. D1 athlete, former D1 athlete, and a strength and conditioning coach. So this is definitely somebody
That's an
like she is
impressive
reminding
challenge
me of
resume.
Jenny West. She
Yeah,
is reminding me of Jenny West. Just looking at her. Yeah, they got to watch out for her.
absolutely. Going back to the vets, another name we just mentioned, Derek, that I wasn't expecting, CT. I thought 40 would kind of be like CT's way of phasing out of the challenge, and it's not. I'm down for it.
Yeah, I thought CT was gonna go into he was like, okay, doing the challenge. I'm gonna be doing OnlyFans because I guess he does some of that. But I'm so excited for CT to come back. It seems like he's really good at like rebounding when he has a bad loss, I guess you
Yeah.
would say. So I really hope that we get to see the monster that he is just
And
come
maybe
out
in this
and
season, he'll have more of CT and less of Arrow One
yeah, and absolutely.
because he had no chance just seeing how much of a mess that team was.
Yeah, it was literally elder abuse. Next up is Turbo. I love Turbo. I think he's hilarious. Um, I just I don't know, excited to see him.
Yeah, I am too. I think Turbo is a player that is just great television. Um, he doesn't seem to get along with his castmates, but he also doesn't care. When
Yeah.
it's like it always takes me back to that moment in Ride or Die when it's like I feel bad in that season when the whole house is just working against you in elimination, especially when it's Michelle and Jay. But when they're filming the opening shots to the season and Michelle is sitting on the bow of a yacht drinking a glass of wine and it cuts to Turbo screaming from his boat to the other boat, I'm going to see you all in elimination. It's like, what is this guy's problem? But I love him on television. He is so funny endlessly that I can't wait to see him back.
It's just he's so entertaining and he's funny without like trying to be funny. Like you can tell he's not sitting there like some people like Wes and Bananas. You could tell that they're like on Chat GBT or before their confessionals like trying to find jokes to put in and how to be funny, but he's just somebody that is like I don't know, he speaks is funny and he gets so
Yeah.
offended, passionate. Um
Next, we have another player from All Stars 5. I mean, do you think there's a chance that when I just mentioned that we saw chapter 1 of a book between Ashley and Anissa that this could maybe run into the flagship now.
I mean, we'll have to
Especially if
see.
it is a team format, because Ashley will let the whole team know that Anissa is not, in her mind, a qualified teammate.
It'll be interesting. Who knows how the current season will progress
Yeah,
and how, because again, we saw them have a blow up, but we don't know if later on they make up or if after the season
we
they
have
made
no
up.
idea, but if they haven't, it could easily keep going.
Yeah. Next is somebody that we have not seen back since Total Madness. This was really shocking for me,
Yeah,
and that's Rogan.
yeah, this is a very interesting cast member, a British-based player on this season. I agree. I'm surprised we haven't seen Rogan back. I get the sense that maybe just the way he was in Total Madness, the bigger names in the challenge didn't want to see him in the house
I
and
think
maybe
he
influenced
had some
people, but
incense tweet
oh,
thing, and it during like 2020 where like everybody was there was like I don't know, everybody was digging up people's
yeah,
social media and everything. So I think that kind of came into effect with why he's not
that makes
or
sense.
hasn't been back. But I don't know. Despite I don't know what the tweet I um, I haven't seen them. So hopefully that he has learned and is gonna do well.
Hopefully. And those things can always be massive challenges too when I mean, even though they're both one country formed out of another and they speak the same language, the understanding of certain issues is so different between America and the UK,
Oh,
just based on the
absolutely.
lived experiences of the people that are there.
Yeah,
And I know
and
some of the things that I'll overhear when I'm traveling in Europe shock me, but I'm like, I'm sure to the people that come to my country that from here they would think the same thing. So
that's an interesting to bring up because obviously, and I think even in Canada, even though it's not in the US, but I think it has a lot of the like if something's going on here, you guys do hear
yeah,
a lot of it, so you are
absolutely.
more in the loop of like things like that. But yeah, in the UK, it's totally different. Like I know one thing is they say the C word
Yeah,
a lot there and it's not offensive, but here if somebody calls you
it's
that,
totally
it's a
unacceptable.
major offense.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Next is Michaela. We saw her last on USA 2 with
yep.
getting a third place finish. She did very well.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
excited to see Michaela return back to the flagship. She was on Spies, Lies, and Allies, but for one episode, where I would say she went home too early, other than the fact that Michelle took her out. So I'm good with that. Um, I definitely think that she could go further into this season and really make a deep run. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many relationships she has, seeing that this is a flagship show and not a USA show where it's not all Survivor and Big Brother people.
yeah, she's somebody that I see making the final.
Yeah, I
She's
definitely think it
somebody,
could go that way.
yeah, I'm
I
not gonna
think
be surprised.
if she's gonna make the final though, I think there will come a couple of points that she has to earn it in the arena.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think um she did very well on USA
Did
2.
she ever?
What'd you say?
I said, did she ever
Did she ever what?
do really well on USA too?
Yeah, she did.
I know. I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, I thought you were questioning. I was like, we watched
No,
the same show.
not at all.
I was like, are you thinking of Spies, Lies, and No.
No,
Um, but yeah, she
she was
won a lot of
amazing that season.
dailies.
Yeah.
She won a lot of dailies, until she physically crashed out during the final. So I don't know. I expect her to do pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Same.
Next up is somebody from Two Handle. Her name's Izzy. Watch that show, The Perfect Match. Okay. Or no, I did watch Perfect Match.
Mm,
She was not a big character on there. I
no,
think she was one of the people that like weren't in the house and like they were trying to get their way in the house, which makes sense coming from a pretty big show, bigger
yeah,
network than MTV.
I did not see it at all. So she was a new name to me.
Yeah. Uh, Next up is Will Gagnon. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Gagnon.
He,
For the audience, je parle en français. And Will is the other person I was going to talk about because he is Quebecois.
oh my God, I can't believe I said Gagnon. You're probably like, what the hell?
I know a lot of people with that last name who are all French Canadians. But
That's funny.
Will was born in Quebec, but he is an actor, so he lives in Los Angeles now. So he's kind of both half American and half Canadian. Um, I've seen a very little bit of him on Are You the One, only because I have occasionally streamed that show on United Airlines. I have not actually watched a full season of it. Sometimes I'll just be on the plane and be like, let's see who from the challenge is on the TV.
That's funny. Um, so I mean, it's good to see that they are pulling from other MTV shows because I think
Yeah,
I haven't watched Are You the One, but I think there was a lot of people that said that there was a lot of good players on the later
yeah.
seasons that weren't asked for the challenge. And just based off the picture I'm seeing, he looks like he's very physically fit.
Does he have
Definitely a gym rat, which I think seems to be a theme in a lot of these cast
yeah.
reveals.
Maybe after All Stars 5, they're trying to go in the opposite direction.
Probably.
All right.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. There's probably, I would say, just from this imbalance, a few more international rookies that they haven't announced yet. We'll see them, but we'll do a full cast review, break down what we think is going to happen once we hear what the theme is and are a couple weeks out from the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the final cast, but it was also fun to do just the speculation of the names that we're hearing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll be back with our next episode soon.
Bye.
Bye.